Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game So today I got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this evening as we're revisiting the Mario Kart 64 PC port, because about 3 days ago it got a new update bringing mod support in, and one of the things that everyone talked about in the comments saying that didn't look as good as they'd hoped were the textures, and a lot of people have been asking if you're going to get HD textures in the game, because this is Mario Kart 64 Reloaded by Ghostly Dark, and you can tell already this is a completely different looking Mario Kart 64 than you've ever seen before. All of the textures are increased to HD resolutions. All of the sprites for the playable characters look completely different than the retail release. It is just such a cleaner version. I mean, look at Wario in the background there on the wall. The amount of fidelity looks completely different than you would expect to see on Mario Kart 64. So now those dreams that you've been asking for, getting that mod support in and the HD texture packs, are here today. Before I get too far involved though, do me a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe and ring that notification bell, definitely helps us out. If you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I got a Patreon link down below as well. But Mario Kart 64 Reloaded is the perfect match for something like the Mario Kart 64 PC port, but it is available for other platforms including emulation as well, so this is something that has been around for a while now. But the Reloaded project got updated the same day that Mario Kart 64 PC port for the mods got updated. These are kind of going in conjunction, hand in hand. There was a bunch of new textures added, but obviously it should be painfully obvious to anyone watching this just how good the resolutions are in full HD. You can see from the trackside textures to all of the different character sprites to everything in the arena, this just looks something like the Nintendo 64 is never capable of doing, because that's exactly what is going on here. Obviously the Nintendo 64 was very notorious for having those very Vaseline sprites, just down to how the VI pipeline implementation worked on the hardware. We talked about a lot of that when we were doing the Nintendo 64 Mr. FPGA core videos of all those different VI pipeline implementations, the ability to turn them on or off. So you ended up in a situation where you'd have very blurry textures on N64 because all of the different filtering. But people can go in, and that's exactly what Reloaded is doing, and replace every single texture in the game with a high resolution version of it. That way you can end up playing the same game you know, love, and remember, but just having it look that much better. And honestly, it really is down to the character sprites here and how they look in the game in and of themselves. This is just so much more impressive than anything we saw in the earlier versions of the PC port, and it really does make it feel that much more modern. And that was definitely something that you were all commenting about, just saying how big of a visual difference there was between what you were seeing in the game with all of the different polygons and textures versus those character sprites. They definitely stood out a ton, and now you can have a completely different experience. Now do be aware, every once in a while in this video you might see a visual glitch here or there. That is just still part of the PC port and part of the HD texture pack and how they are married together. Because don't forget, just because you can play this game from start to finish, just because you can see the credits scroll on the PC port, it does not mean that it is done. You're going to get a lot of bug fixes, and you're going to get a lot of new improvements coming over to the port as well. And now with mod support coming in, it's not just like it's going to be the HD texture pack and nothing else is going to happen. What I really hope to see more than anything is Mario Kart 64 Amped coming over to the PC port, so we can have all the amazing courses from Amped in something like this. Because again, if you missed the original video, you're getting 60 frames per second or better depending on what settings you put in on Mario Kart 64. You're getting widescreen support, you can do ultra wide as well. You can basically dial this game into your heart's content as to what you want to do, and you can even change around the dead zone, which I do recommend because I feel like the default dead zone makes drifting a little bit too sensitive. But even as we go through here, you'll see all of the different characters and all of the different textures just look outstanding, and these faces here so much clearer than you'd see on N64. Believe me, comment down below and you tell me, HD textures or the original textures. I would be really curious to hear what you guys prefer more, because I feel like this is what most people actually want versus the original textures. But the good thing is you can turn this on and off at whim in the mods menu, so if you decide you don't like it, you can just go ahead and go back to the original version of the game, or if you like it on some courses, not the others, you can just basically dial in again whatever experience you want. Now obviously this doesn't change the geometry in any way, shape, or form. It's still going to be made out of the same amount of polygons that were in the original game, but I'm sure at some point in time you might even see people remodel some of them figures in the actual game. But it's time for a soundtrack sample because the music's so good. 45 seconds, I'll be right back with more texture work. Sounds amazing, plays amazing at a much higher frame rate, and now it looks amazing on the texture work. And just think about how much work this truly is. All of the different textures having to be improved, all of them being swapped out for new textures when appropriate. This is not a small amount of work, because think of how many different unique textures are going to be in Mario Kart 64. From the skybox to the overall walls you're seeing here to all the textures on all the vehicles you're passing, the grass, the guardrail, the street in and of itself, all of the billboards, those are all different textures that have to uniquely be touched and dealt with by individuals to make them high definition. So every single asset in this game just basically has to be redone or upscaled. I'm not sure if they're redrawing everything or if they're doing a combination of upscaling as well, but if you know that, leave me a comment down below and you tell me. But even all of the different power-ups you're getting here, like the bananas, the green shells, the red shells, and otherwise, look stunning, but it really is the characters in and of themselves that I feel like really lend itself so well to this PC port. Because I would say, even though all of the old textures are instantaneously recognizable as the characters they're supposed to be, they just look better here. Yoshi looks exactly like Yoshi, Toad looks exactly like Toad, and every other character is going to look exactly as they should. You might see a little bit of frame blending when you're actually speeding up in the game. I think that's just down to the fact that the frame rate is basically interpolated because the frame rate is tied to the game logic for the most part in Mario Kart 64 and a lot of other games on N64 as well. But even the little red circles on Toad's, whatever the hell his head is made out of, are just so much clearer in the game, and all of these snowmen as well, even though you're flying by them, it just looks that much better. Even all of the different snowflake particle effects seem like they're redrawn because they just seem that much clearer than you would see on N64, and it really does make the game feel that much fresher and that much newer, because I was surprised to hear how many people really just didn't like the PC port with the original graphics. Honestly, to me, part of Nintendo 64 is the blurriness, but I guess when you actually go up to something like high definition and you still have that blur going on at the same time, it might just be a little bit too blurry compared to what you're seeing on screen. Maybe that blur just really marries itself better to when you have the lower frame rate and the 240p presentation versus something like 1080p or even higher, all the way up to 4K. Even the word poop there, never quite sure what that was supposed to mean, but it always made me laugh, is in high definition. It is that much easier to read, but you still get the fog, you still get the same visual effects that you would get from N64, just with that much more clarity. And I would say that just works. That's the fun part about these PC ports. It's not just that we get a higher frame rate, but now with the update, the modification engine's in there, so expect to see a ton of different things. And I really hope maybe somebody does this in VR just for the hell of it, because I've never been able to play the VR version of Mario Kart that was released in arcades. I always wanted to do it but never got the chance, so maybe someone could make a pseudo version of that in the PC port. And I will say all of the color vibrancy is still here. It still has that bright cherry color that is synonymous with Mario Kart 64, just now you're going to be able to see a hell of a lot more details. We're going to do one more soundtrack sample because the music in this game is just straight up a 10 out of 10 any day of the week and twice on Sunday, and I'll be right back. And that segment there is just an example that you can still do 4:3 standard aspect ratio, and it looks just as good, except it's not in widescreen. And big thanks to Kilter Music for helping with the capture this weekend as well. Definitely helped me out on this one. And his Mario Kart performance is definitely up to par because he basically got first place almost every single time. But this is something basically all of you were asking for. Since the PC port first hit, everyone's been asking when you're going to get those HD texture packs in. So now, as of a couple days ago, you definitely have those in the game, and it's absolutely flawless looking. Sure, there might be a tiny visual glitch here and there, but for the most part, playing through this, I haven't had any issues whatsoever. I know a few of you have actually mentioned that once you finish a cup and you end up going to the credits, the game seems to freeze, but I have not had that whatsoever. So that's still happening to you. Do leave me a comment down below and tell me what the instances are, because I would be curious. But honestly, this just looks outstanding. Seeing these high resolution sprites, seeing the high resolution of Peach's Castle right here, just 100% looks like a game that you remember port, but you've never seen before. Because that's the thing, if it's been decades since you played Mario Kart 64 and N64, you might think to yourself that it looked better than it actually did, and that's just nostalgia talking. But now the game probably looks exactly like you remember it, even if this isn't how it was in the first place. But we're done, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.